Every choice you made was the right choice. You just got to understand what was right about it.
Hello, and welcome to Notes on Resilience. I'm your host, Manya Chilinsky. My guest today is Shaun Murphy, aka Mr. Motivation. He's a U.S. Army veteran, a motivational speaker, educator, musician, and author of Unbreakable Valor: Triumph Through the Soul of Resilience. Today, we talked about resilience, turning adversity into advantage, and a little bit about fear and self doubt. I think you're really going to enjoy the conversation. Shaun, I'm so glad we finally have a chance to sit down and talk today.
Oh, yeah, likewise, likewise.
Thank you so much for being here. The very first question I start all my guests off this year is, what is one thing that you have done in any area of your life that you never thought you would do?
Oh, so I've done a few things, but my music journey. So I'm Mr. Motivation, the speaker, but I'm also a musician. And I did I think a 40-minute set in Philly at the Falsa Club, and all music, 40 minutes. Me, like when I look back in life, I'm like, what? You know what I mean? I always thought I wanted to be, I'm from Brooklyn, so Jay-Z, Biggie influence. And you know, I want to do that, but it's like, how? And then all these years later, I'm doing it. So I'm literally living the dream.
That is amazing. And what is your instrument?
Yeah, no, just my mind. I like rap, spoken word. Then I fuse the two. So when I do my speaking presentation, it's like a keynote meets concert because I fuse them and just really engage the audience. So yeah.
Oh, I love that. Keynote meets concert. I can picture it perfectly. Well, thank you for sharing that. I think many people might not have imagined to find themselves singing on stage. I think that's so amazing. We are going to be talking about compassion and empathy and leadership, but I'd love to start with your name, Mr. Motivation. Where did that come from?
Yeah, yeah. So I have this song called Cadence that's like it's spoken word with a nice beat. It kind of gives it its due diligence. So think basic training, you running and you're tired, you about 4 miles in, drill sergeant's running. He's like, all right, Privates, when we get to the water tower, we all done. So we give it all we got to get to the water tower. We get there only to see him take off even faster. I'm
No!
like, I gave you all I got. But listen, he hit this cadence. I'm motivated, rock. And you just like everything in you just are able to go to the next level. So when I decided to create a platform to help others on a global scale become their best version of themselves, I said, I want to be the cadence for you. So when you're ready to quit, when you feel like you're not enough, you got dealing with self-doubt, you tap into one of my songs, one of my spoken word pieces, all my music, and it's going to give you what you need to go next level and to keep going.
Oh, I love that. That you'll be the cadence when somebody doesn't have it for themselves. And speaking as someone who has, I'm sure so many of our listeners have had those moments where we just don't have it ourselves. That's so amazing that you have that ability to share that. Now, you mentioned the Army, so I think you have a background in the military. And how did that help you with what you're doing today?
Man, whew, you talk about. So I go to military backstory. I dropped out of college. I went to Binghamton and just wasn't ready. I was still a wild boy. My mom's told me I needed to go to military straight, and I didn't listen. In any event, I ended up there and a lost dude, didn't know where he was going. A wandering generality, just no vision, no clue. And it was in the military. A few things happened. I saw leaders who set the examples that I didn't want to follow. Leaders, like the way they were, the way they treated troops, I didn't want to be that person. Two, my peers decided to change their life and do bigger things and better things, and I was like, wow. And I tell this story at the time about my boy Buddy Lee. He said, Murph, I'm about to get promoted to E4, E5, E6. I'm going to Hawaii. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, why? You're my drinking buddy. We can go play basketball. I still had that lacking mindset. And I watched him do everything he said he was going to do. And I'm like, wait, this is the dude that was just right next to me. And I'm not from a negative space at all, but I said, well, if Buddy Lee could do it, I know I could do it. You know what I mean? So I saw that real time example. And I had another guy, he was a Marine, older than me, took me under the wing for listeners and viewers. Lost my father age 6 to gun violence. So I didn't grow up with that father figure. And Big Bro became that for me. He was a big bro. He took care of me, gave me guidance, direction, motivation, which we don't call in the Army, that's the definition of leadership, providing purpose, direction, and motivation. And man, through him, I was able to, because I wanted to get out of the military after 4 years. I was like, I'm over this stuff. And I
Yes.
said, this is for the birds. And he's like, what you gonna do? I said, I'm going to school. He said, well, school's free here. You're not doing it. And then he just laid into me, sit your behind down. This is what you about to do. And for the first time, I sat and I listened, and man, I followed it to the T, and I got promoted at a high rate of speed. And then I became a leader of others. And I got into leadership at a young age, and I had to lead people that was older than me. So when you talk about compassion and empathy, I understood that early because the military is like a melting pot. And I remember, my girl Will, she was probably in her 30s. She said, Sergeant Murphy, why do I have to listen to you? I'm older than you. I said, well, you might want to check your collar because I got three up and one down. But it was a thing. And I really had to, I think, grow up faster. I didn't have any kids, so I had to learn how to lead others. And I think it was through one, having those mentors, virtual mentors, but reading books just on leadership. One of my favorite books now, and I got more into reading later, Never Split the Difference, when he talks about tactical empathy. And like you got to become the person to really understand what they're going through to then make a decision about what's going on. And, this takes years to develop. Talking about compassion, I've led in many capacities, Army. I ran the census out in Pennsylvania. At one point in time, you got about 3,000 people reporting up to me, and so you gotta. I always say anything that's important to the people that under my leadership has to become important to me. You know what I'm saying? And then when they think you really care, that's when they'll go through a wall for you. You know what I'm saying? So that's been my experience. I mean, so yeah, military census, and I think about even in education, where you like leading students. I've taught middle school to college now. That's a different type of leadership. You know what I mean? When you're helping your peers in the classroom as well.
Right. Wow, you've had a lot of different leadership experiences. I'm so curious about the leading people who are older than you, because at a certain point, this might happen to a lot of people that our leaders are younger than us, but there can be a real difficulty in believing that someone younger than us knows what they're doing. First of all, you have to empathize with them, but how do you lead when somebody's doubting your abilities?
So one, I always say, and when I mentor my young guys and gals that are in that space, I say, well, you always have to be the fountain pouring. So you have to read, you have to be studying things, and then feed the team. You know what I mean? So then they look like, oh, this person is younger than me, but it dilutes, it goes away after a while because you're feeding them something they didn't know how to do, an experience they didn't have. So I always say to you, you got to diversify yourself in experiences and in reading, and then share that with the team. And they always look at, you know what? I always say, I'm the tower. I'm in leadership. Someone always has a tower. You're the tower. All commands come from the tower. You have to be the tower, though. You get me? Mm-hmm.
And you have to build trust.
Mm-hmm.
That's a word that comes up a lot in this podcast, in these conversations. The importance of trust that goes both ways.
Yeah, and I think it lies in one of my favorite books is the Four Agreements, and one of those agreements you make with you in the universe is be impeccable with your word. If you say you're going to do something, you say you're going to be somewhere, do it, be there, and then your subordinates they're going to be like, you know what, whether they like you or not, because everybody not going to like you, they're going to say, but he or she keeps their word. If they say they're going to do something, I could back it. That's all that. That's the foundation that you can now build on.
Right. And what you said is so interesting. You might not like the person, but if you trust them and they're in a leadership role, you
Yeah,
will
you'll comply.
you will
You'll yeah,
deliver if you need to.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. One of the topics that I know you talk about is turning adversity into an advantage. And you shared a little bit about you losing your father when you were young. How does somebody take those experiences and grow from them and learn from them? So many of us have had so many adverse experiences, and it can be easy to just let them get you down.
You know what it is? I've found over the years, things happen. Life's going to happen. Tragic things are going to happen. How will you respond? Right. So you can look at it and say, "Oh, why me? This thing happened again. This is the fifth thing that happened this year." And you've been that victim mindset. But what I do, and I would encourage you, viewers and listeners, ask yourself, what am I supposed to learn from this? Like you take that pain point, but you look to extract the nuggets because everything happens for a reason. You're like, oh, I made bad choices in life. No, every choice you made was the right choice. You just got to understand what was right about it, right? And a lot of times we fail once, twice, 20 times, and you're like, dang, all these failures. But then if you look back, it becomes a staircase that takes you to where you're supposed to be. All those failures you build on. So it's all about this. I mean, we talk about this all the time, mindset, how you framing it. I tell my kids all the time, when things happen, you can't get upset. If you gave that thing value, now it's a thing. But if it's not value, let it go.
Hi, it's Manya. You're listening to Notes on Resilience, conversations about leadership, recovery, and how we show up in the difficult moments. If something here hits home, or if you're navigating a crisis, or you're seeing something in your team you want to talk through, I'd love to hear from you. You can get in touch at my website, manyachilinski.com. Now, back to the episode. Yes, yes. And just speaking from my own experience, and you tell me if this is similar to yours, the thing about that is it takes a little while sometimes after the adversity to realize maybe there's something I can learn here. Maybe I'm giving it too much, too much value, too much power in my life. But that doesn't happen right away
So here's the
necessarily.
thing. There's this quote. I forget where I got it from. I found the 10-acre lot because I was looking for the 10-acre lot. So when that thing happens, that tragic thing, you gotta seek out, what am I supposed to learn from this? And it's gonna take time, and you gotta be patient. But if you're actively looking for it, you start to attract what you're looking for. And it's just the ways of the universe. If you tap into the laws of the universe, that's kind of just how it is.
Yeah. Now, you said something interesting, and I want to push back a little bit. You said everything happens for a reason. I am actually someone who does not believe that that is true. However, I do believe you can find meaning in everything that happens to you. So I'm just curious your thoughts about that.
In life, you just can't control everything. So for me, I operate from a place of like, what can I control? Because I'm overprotective of my energy, and things happen. And I mean, I guess for me to accept it, I have to have that mindset that there's got to be a reason here somewhere. So I don't hang out in the why me, woe is me. So I think I'm also an optimist. So I'm like, there's got to be some kind of positivity here. That's how the lenses I'm looking through when I say it happens for a reason. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so I think maybe I just don't say it the same way that you do, but essentially it's the same thought, which is, can I find some meaning from this? And not everybody does find meaning from adversity, and that's okay. That's the way it is. But I think people like you and me are ones who look for, what can I do with this now? Interesting. So, I know that you work with individuals and you work with communities and organizations. How do you help us? I'm thinking specifically organizations now. How do you help them understand kind of how to help their people deal with adversity?
How do I help orgs help them people? Well, I mean, in the military, we did this top down approach. You can try to go to everyone in the congregation or the community or organization, or you could educate, empower, and equip the leadership with the tools, systems, and strategies they need to go next level, and then they can then push it down. So I tell you what, I think that's the better approach, right? Because the congregation or the people, they have the leadership as the trusted voice. So if I educate the person at the top, then the trusted voice is sharing that information. It's probably more easier to digest and receive.
Right. I guess I'm thinking, you talk about the concept of resilience. That's something, it's the name of the podcast. That's something I talk about. How do you help people understand resilience and think about their own resilience?
Yeah, well, I share my story. I share my story and I look for, where's the synergy. Now, I always say everything I say may not be for you, but it only takes one thing to change everything. So you think about my story, I say I grew up, I was born into this world with three strikes: a black male, born into poverty, born fatherless, right? Now that was my start, but I didn't let that stop me, right? Did I have setbacks? Sure. That I share the fact that I'm grounded in my why. If you grounded in your why, you can go don't you the how, the where, all that figures itself out because life's gonna knock you down. My mantra: I fail, I grow, I win. That's rooted in my story. I used to get bullied by my teacher. That could have shut me down in terms of like the confidence piece, not wanting to speak up. But I said, all right, what can I learn from this? And I became like the comedian, and I would clown myself, and I'm clowning other people, and that's how I made it through the hood, as a comedian. So I took these pain points, and then you almost gotta it has to transition into power, and then in that power you grow that self confidence. And when I have delusional self confidence, but this is a kid that's been through a lot, right? Then I find my purpose and I walk in that. That's where it becomes transformational. So when I'm out and about and I'm speaking and talking, I share my story, and I'm hoping that this story it becomes the blueprint so you can sidestep the landmines I went through, so you can go next level even faster.
Right. Right. And as you know, and as so many of our listeners know, there's such power in storytelling and sharing our stories. And as the person who hears it and you see a little bit of yourself in that story. Yeah. So that is so amazing. When you're out there talking to giving your keynotes, you're talking to organizations, what kind of resistance do you face from people who are saying, I can't do this, I don't want to do this, this isn't the way to do this?
I always tell people it's a reflective thing. Are you where you want to be? Have you done all the things you need to be to get where you want to go? And if the answer is no, then all right, let's start there, right? So I always say, like, who are you? Where are you? And why are you here? Those reflective questions, because I'm a guide. I'm not gonna get you where you want to go. I'm gonna help you reflect on the things that you want and the journey that is gonna take for you to get there. So it's a lot of that. It's a lot of reflective practicing, journaling, because the person has to. There was this one show, not a show. Les Brown. He said the dog was on the floor and it was, murmuring. They said, "What's wrong with it?" He said, "I got a nail stuck in it." I said, "Why don't we put the nail out?" I said, "Oh, it don't hurt bad enough." And for many of us, it just doesn't hurt bad enough. Like you're okay with where you all right with it. It's your new norm. So for me, it don't matter what I say, it just doesn't hurt bad enough. See, for me, I got sick and tired of being sick and tired. I say, you know what? Poverty sucks. I'll never be broke again. It's something just hit. And it has to be that time where it hit. Then you meet me, then the opportunity, then the planets align. Now you go on next level. You see what I'm saying? So
I
yeah.
do. So interesting, the doesn't hurt bad enough. I think sometimes we get caught up in I should change, I should do this, but then we don't actually make the change. And maybe it's because the problem isn't a big enough problem. Interesting. Now I'm just thinking of examples in my own life where wanted to make a change, but just never managed to do it. And realizing, yeah, because it wasn't a big enough challenge. So what is the biggest challenge out there that you see for people who are wanting to make a change, who are trying to be resilient, who are trying to figure out what is my next step? What do you think is the biggest challenge people are
Yeah,
facing?
I'd say self-doubt. A lot of people just don't believe they can do it. They don't believe they deserve to win. They don't believe people who come from where they come from win in life. And oftentimes I say, words are powerful, and it's about the words you're saying. So I say, I'm sure we said in some capacity of our life, I'm going to stop smoking. I'm going to start working out. I'm going to quit drinking. We don't stop, we don't start, we don't quit. And over the course of time of you lying to yourself, now you get a bright idea. I want to change my life. Well, you don't believe you. And that's how that self doubt kind of just lives and festers. So you got to actively, intentionally undo that stuff. Speaking positivity, like speaking it with intention and following through on things you're going to do. Do low hanging fruits, get the win, get a third, fourth win. What that do? Builds momentum. You know what I'm saying? Progress translates to happiness. So that's where I see it lies at. And I think it starts with, what are you saying to yourself?
Interesting. So you know that I think about things from a systems level. So when we're talking about self-doubt, that is personal, and I may doubt it, but sometimes that's coming from somewhere else. That's society saying people like you don't do this thing. And then we internalize that.
Even another level layer. So remember, I've taught at every level, every educational level, except was elementary. I remember in high schools, you have parents who are telling their kids, "You ain't gonna amount to this. You can't do that." And with them, and this is real. It's wild. It's so real. Like the parent may have had a big dream, got pregnant, or the career didn't go how I wanted to go because they have a child, and now they hold this like resentment, and then it comes out in speech or action, and then now the child takes this on, has this like that's because I always say, what's the origin? What's your origin story? And I can tell you kind of why you are where you are.
Right, because we take those messages in from, I mean, especially from our parents. That's such a primary piece. But media, TV we watch, the what our politicians say.
Sometimes you got coaches. Remember now, if a coach was an athlete back in the day, there was no, it was an NIL deals. There was a lot of things that weren't there. So the coach may subconsciously not really like the fact that you on this trajectory and he or she couldn't. So it's coming from everywhere. So you really got to protect your energy. That's why I pour into my students, anyone in my sphere of influence, about the power of positive self-talk, the power of like limiting who you're listening to. You know what I'm saying? Because it all affects you.
It does. You know, you've said a couple times the phrase protecting your own energy, and I so appreciate that. And it's something I've had to work at, but I see the difference in my life when I take care of, I don't have the ability to focus on that right now.
Yeah, yeah. No is a full sentence, a whole sentence. No, done.
You know, that's something so many of us need to remind ourselves of sometimes.
Yeah, yeah.
Shaun, we're getting close to the end of our time. So let me ask you, what is giving you hope these days?
It's a good question. Yeah, I'm gonna go with my motivation music. My motivation music, being intentional with the sound and the lyrics, clean lyrics, positivity. Like it's almost like a speech with rhythm. And the hope is that like people are listening and like catching like, oh, this is actually. Yeah. I'm like, yeah, play some more. So I'm even more inspired to write more, create more, perform more, get on bigger stages, and in any capacity, whether it's a talk or only music, you're gonna get this motivation music. So that gives me hope that it's being received well globally, and I'm spreading positivity.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Well, can you tell our listeners a little more about your work and how they can reach
Oh,
you?
absolutely. www.mr-motivation.com. I'm on Spotify as Mr. Motivation, MISTER Motivation. And I have like a School of the Hard Knocks where I do these 1 to 3 minute clips, they quick hitters. And then you have Mr. Motivation music, full blown. I just released a song for the love of women. Have one Psalms Wide Open, has like a faith based foundation that I think you all love. And like I said, and music has actually become my therapy. For years, I never talked about my dad and losing him, but I did a song "Letter to Dad," and I think that a lot of especially my fellas might tap into. So yeah,
Oh, wonderful. I'll include notes to those in the show notes. So links to those in the show notes so people can reach you. And Shaun, thank you so much for this conversation. I've so loved talking to you.
likewise. Hey, listen, any way I could be of service, please hit me.
Absolutely. And thank you to our listeners for catching this episode, and we will see you next time.
Thank you for listening to Notes on Resilience. I'm Manya Chilinsky, a speaker and advisor. My work focuses on how leaders support people through pressure and disruption. The show is edited by Neil Panji, and it's hosted on Buzzsprout. Subscribe to the podcast to stay connected and sign up for the newsletter at manyachilinsky.com/notes for monthly insights and updates.